Okay, so at some point in the 1980s or the 70s or the 60s, or I don't know, some random Italian child decided to start telling jokes in which the butt of the joke would be this one reoccurring character named Pierino. We don't know who it was, and we don't know where it started, or if it even started in one place, or if just people started doing it for no reason. It's kind of like a nationwide meme to tell every single joke with the name of this character. So imagine making a movie about this. It's like making a movie about the chicken that crossed the road. It's a cultural phenomenon with very little background behind it. And while yeah, it's super recognizable, how do you get something out of this? Well, Medusa did it, and they made a super successful movie named Pierino contro tutti, or in English, Desirable Teacher. If that's not the most bland name you could think of, then macOS is the superior operating system. Well anyway, take this recognizable name, slap it on the name of some random live-action movie you made, the movie in question being some kind of comedy revolving around a perverted, incredibly criminal, if not incredibly dangerous sociopathic child, and boom, money. So let's take a look at the movie, shall we? Well, the movie starts off with this little opening credit scene with these little drawings featuring our main character doing various nefarious, if not criminal and illegal acts. I'll just let this picture speak for itself. You can perfectly understand what's going on here, just by filling in the blanks in your mind. Anyway, I'll be referring to our main character as Pippi from now on because that's just easier. The English localized version calls him Johnny, but to be honest, that's pretty stupid because Johnny's such an overused name. And so here he is, our main character. To be honest, I've never seen a movie where the physical actor looks so much like the actual cartoon. Like, did they base the drawings off him, or did they draw the cartoon and then find an actor that looks like that? Because the resemblance is uncanny.
Una sega? Ci farà con la sega? Una fionda? Un mattone?
A DEC DC-9 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
E che ci fai con tutta sta roba?
Ce lo so io.
E vabbè, via di là, via.
So Pippi is a compulsive liar. If this was made in 2020, then he would probably be planning to shoot up the school. I mean, one of the opening cartoons is literally him pointing a cannon at the school. Okay, so apart from the fact that the mom completely dismisses the fact that her son has a brick and a slingshot in the school bag, also had to literally censor part of this image because this movie is really risky for its age. And it's here that we're introduced to Pippi's very dysfunctional family. Isn't it funny how he's shaking his hand while trying to eat the soup? That's just absolutely hilarious. Is it not incredibly funny to laugh at people's physical disabilities?
Va a dire a tua sorella che lascia il bagno perché io si sbrigasse che io quando vi il latte mi si scioglie.
There's also loads of toilet humor in this movie. You see, this is what people refer to as a borderline comedy, where the jokes are so close to being so stupidly immature that it kind of makes them funny. Personally, I don't see it, but maybe back in the 1980s, this is what they considered incredibly hilarious and risky.
Si sono scordati che io sono stato un bersagliere.
È possibile che in questa casa si debbano sentire solo parolacce? Imbecille, ignorante e pure deficiente. Cretino.
Certi momenti sta casa mi pare un casino.
A me sto casino non mi pare mai una casa.
A Pierippo, un cazzotto, un testa, un carcione.
Do you see what I mean when I say dysfunctional?
Oh, hai letto qua? Dice che in Svezia danno 50.000 lire all'uomini che vanno con le donne.
Ehi, ma te che ce l'hai con 100.000 lire l'anno?
Get used to Pippi's laugh, because if anything, it gets worse as the movie goes on. There's a very, very mature fart joke. And so here he is, Pippi on the street, and to be honest, these scenes are the most enjoyable of the movie, because you get to see a little bit of a snapshot into life in Italy in the 1980s. There's all these old cars and old shops, and pretty much everything looks the same as it does today. Ah yes, the iconic trumpet cat noise that everybody knows so well. Oh my god, that is terrifying! If I was walking down the street and I heard a cat make that noise, then I would probably freak out too. Anyway, as is tradition for Pippi, he takes advantage of the woman. Yeah, I know it's incredibly immature, stupid, and very inappropriate, but you don't really see this in modern cinema, so at least it's kind of original, if not, you know, completely degenerate and stupid. Anyway, Pippi arrives at the bar.
E tu faccia da culo, fammi un cappuccino.
Vorrei un caffè nero come la notte e dolce come l'amore.
Vabbè.
Oh, here start the gay jokes.
Non mi questo, gli mancano orecchini.
Stupido! Ma che dici? Gli orecchini con l'abito sportivo? Ah, non capisci proprio niente.
Okay, I'd like to note at this point that this person is literally a man-child. I mean, Pippi looks like he's 45 and he still attends school. Maybe he's some kind of deranged lunatic that turns to horrible pranks and criminal acts to forget the fact that he never had a childhood or something stupid like that.
Lo sai che differenza passa fra arrosto bruciato e una donna incinta? No. Nessuna. In tutti e due i casi bastava levarlo un momento prima.
Okay, so at this point you might think I'm kind of editing out important parts of the story and only putting in the jokes, but that's not actually true. This movie is literally just Pippi walking around from joke to joke. The main plot of the movie is only really there to give some kind of explanation for why this random man-child is walking around making incredibly inappropriate jokes.
Che famo se non andiamo a scuola?
Scola, scola. Mi fate a mozzico?
Sì, come no?
Like, to be honest, this movie is just a compilation of random jokes. It's not really a movie, it's like a YouTube video made by some edgy 13-year-old. And so Pippi makes his way to school.
Via qua, mo sta a vedere che famo, eh?
And so Pippi pranks his school administrator teacher man by putting some dog poop on the floor. Another very mature and subtle joke.
Oh, e tu la devi piantare e fa l'imbecille, hai capito?
Man, if a teacher said that in 2020, they'd probably be fired instantly. I can imagine that on social media.
Ragazzi, la maestra!
Anyway, Pippi's school teacher tries to seduce the other school teacher. This is actually quite integral to the plot, so pay attention.
Esigo che tu venga a scuola accompagnato da tuo padre.
Non è possibile.
Perché?
È perché mio padre sta carcerato.
Beh, allora fatti accompagnare da tua madre.
Sì, magari, qua ne vedo quella. A notte batte, il giorno dorme.
And so yet again we see Pippi being a compulsive liar.
Dovevate portare un oggetto che rappresentasse una città. Questa è Venezia, naturalmente. Natura, i fele, i fiori?
Questa è Parigi a primavera.
Oh, l'America!
Ah yes, my favorite city, America. Anyway, Pippi obviously misbehaves and gets kicked out of the classroom. And then this scene plays. Is he actually going to commit a school shooting? Because based off the music, it certainly sounds like it. Then this really funky music starts playing. And Pippi vandalizes a toilet.
E tu, Pierino, stai zitto e siediti al tuo posto. Oh, il mio braccio!
C'hanno ragione a dire che sai che vanno male.
Okay, so after a scene where Pippi literally commits a crime, it randomly switches to these two old ladies talking about something. Like, no direction, no, explanation for why we're here. Pippi just, I don't know, walked out of the school and went to talk to these two old ladies. Moving on. Then it switches to the scene of just a bunch of rabbits and he makes a stupid joke about them having loads of babies. Like, I get it, he's walking around the city and he's talking to random people and making these very immature jokes, but how does this fit into the plot? The best movies are the ones where you can take out a scene and the rest of the movie feels a little bit worse or, a little empty or doesn't make sense at all. In this movie, you could literally remix everything and everything would still pretty much make sense because it doesn't make sense in the first place. Anyway, it's revealed that Pippi's father owns a restaurant. Funny antics ensue, and then we're introduced to the boyfriend of Pippi's sister. And then it just switches to Pippi's grandpa talking to some random old man. What is it with this movie and just showing scenes of old people conversing together? Like, it really isn't that interesting. Anyway, Pippi shows up and he found a dog. Also, he's wearing the scarf from Doctor Who. Don't question it. Then he brings the dog to the cinema, and there's a funny scene where some old lady's hat blocks his view and he tries to tell her to get out of the way or something stupid like that. But do you really think I care about the plot of Pippi versus everyone? And then it just cuts to a scene in the school where a very sexy teacher shows up in class. This is supposedly a substitute teacher because, as we saw before, Pippi broke the other teacher's leg. Okay, so obviously Pippi is instantly attracted to her. Anyway, it's revealed that the teacher from before is attracted to the new substitute teacher, and that they just go have a school trip just because plot, I guess.
Pierino, ma cosa fai lì dietro?
Niente, che faccio? Sto leggendo Topolino.
Anyway, Pippi steals his schoolmate's lunch, and he starts rummaging through all the sandwiches and throwing away the ones he doesn't like. This is an absolute waste of food. Then while Pippi was playing kick the can, he spots the two teachers getting a little close. So obviously the only logical reaction is to take out his slingshot and start slinging over little bullets. Then they spot him, and Pippi makes the gym teacher fall into some mud. Then there's a gym scene, and Pippi acts like a pervert, obviously. Then he gets hit by a ball, and he, like, flies 20 feet. That's actually quite good, though. It looks quite creative and fun. But don't worry, the horrible jokes keep coming. Then Pippi pulls the gym equipment under the gym teacher, and he makes him break his back. Because that's what typical children do. Then it just randomly switches to Pippi in the forest, and he, like, sees his girlfriend, and then they have intercourse in the bushes, where it's clearly just some random person holding on to the bushes and shaking them. That's actually quite hilarious. And I'm pretty sure somebody else is like throwing all those items out. That actually looks quite cartoonish despite how inappropriate it is, and that makes it kind of funny. Then of course it randomly switches to Pippi on the street, and he's wearing a Mario costume. Except it's not a Mario costume because those are just Italian clothes. Anyway, Pippi shows up with flowers to the school for the sexy teacher, only to be surprised when he finds his regular school teacher who has recovered from breaking her leg. Okay, so after the school scene, it switches to Pippi throwing some banana peels on the floor, and you might think, well, this must be just some one-off joke they're making to just transition between scenes or something, but no, this is actually integral to the plot of the story, because the quote-unquote ugly teacher shows up and avoids the banana peels. They do a little bait and switch where she falls into the pit of death built by Pippi himself. Basically, this is to set up the fact that she won't be showing up to school and it will only be the sexy teacher now. This kid is like on some other level. He goes out breaking people's bones multiple times a day, breaking who knows how many laws, and is incredibly perverted. Anyway, then it switches to a scene of two scientists talking to Pippi, and there's a joke about him crapping his pants.
Ha ragione, ma non si può vedere pagare un po' di meno.
Ma che scherza? Le tasse sono tasse e bisogna pagarle.
Well, it seems Pippi's dad wants to evade taxes. I never thought in the entire duration of this movie that I would start thinking about Yoshi. Then Pippi goes to school and makes some really weird speech about how Hitler did nothing wrong and 9/11 was an inside job. Then Pippi goes back home and now he's depressed. God, the grandpa's laugh is creepy. Then Pippi goes to a psychic to see if he's ever going to get with his teacher. The amount of things wrong with that sentence is just something I don't want to get into. Then it switches to a scene of Pippi walking his dog, and then he hires a prostitute. Yep, elementary students hiring prostitutes. Welcome to Italy. Okay, so at this point it's pretty obvious that he's not actually an elementary student. He's probably like 45. The ultimate man-child. Then he gets into a car and starts trying to run people over. Like, I was saying the sociopath thing as a joke, but this is seriously dangerous. Then he goes to the doctor, some stupid scene about him trying to run away from getting an injection. If they made a Pippi movie in 2020, he'd probably be anti-vax. Apparently the doctor gave the grandpa some pill to take, and it's a suppository, and they can't figure out what to do with it, so they call the doctor multiple times and they keep getting confused. Then he finally tells them,
In culo.
and they think they've been insulted. Then he goes playing pinball, and then his little friend shows up with a little bag of like concrete or cement or something. And this is important because it sets up something else that happens in the story. You see, Pippi's family is celebrating the union between his sister and her boyfriend with a little like dinner thing. There's a joke about the boyfriend pulling like a string out of his mouth or something like that. It's not an Italian movie if there's no anime on TV. Then they take out the cake, and this is when the cement gets into play. They keep trying to cut the cake, but nobody can cut the cake, and then it blows up. Also, the grandpa shows up with his sword from World War I, and that doesn't work at all. Then Pippi's suddenly in the forest again. I'm not even going to try to explain how this, connects or has any synergy to the plot. He meets a man who says he's been bitten by some kind of poison animal. The doctor tells him to bite into the injury and suck the poison out.
Ha detto il dottore! Il dottore! Ha detto che devi morire!
Then suddenly they're at school again, and Pippi sees the hot teacher and he gets aroused. And then there's a scene where the teacher is basically naked. I had to censor pretty much the entire thing. This doesn't add any substance, this isn't funny, this is just straight up pornography, basically. Then it switches to this random scene of these two guys talking about cars, and Pippi shows up and makes a stupid joke. Like, do I really need to go over all of these? This is basically just all stupid jokes. And then Pippi shows up to school with broken hands. Perversion ensues. The teacher notices his erection, and all the students celebrate for some reason. He gets called to the Supreme Council of Teachers, or I don't know what you call these things, like, I don't know, administrative group. Then randomly he's free again and starts walking around on the streets. And then there's a skit about some random man in some shop trying to sell the other man some, like, screws or something. And the joke is that the man is, like, trying to talk about all these precise screw measurements and all this stuff, and the other man doesn't understand anything. Then Pippi shows up with, like, a toilet, and then the movie just ends. But not before some police is assaulted. Boy, do I love assault of government bodies. And there's the credits. I mean, to be honest, this entire movie was basically just joke after joke after joke with, like, some stupid subplot about Pippi trying to date his teacher. To be honest, the most enjoyable thing about this movie was just watching it and just taking everything out of context. I mean, all the jokes about Pippi being a school shooter were really easy to make. It has more value to be laughed at rather than laughing with, and it's definitely not something I'd recommend to watch, probably because most of my audience speaks English and I haven't really found a version of this movie that is in English. Apparently it's been localized to like tons of different nations, but besides that, I guess thanks for watching this stupid video about some stupid movie. If it gets received well, I might make a video about the second one because there's loads to laugh at in that one as well. Thanks for watching. This video was surprisingly not brought to you by the Italian education system.